I think there are going to be big moves this year. I think 2025, we could see 1 million per coin. And I still think that you should just buy it regardless of the price. There is no need to wait for a pullback. You can DCA, and I think Clem agrees, DCA is good. But if you can lump sum buy, lump sum buy. If it's good enough for Sailor as a strategy, then it's good enough for your average Joe.
Samson Mow begins by laying out Bitcoin's journey toward becoming a universal unit of account. A pivotal moment he predicts will occur when Bitcoin reaches a price of approximately $500,000 per coin. At this valuation, Bitcoin will begin to demonetize traditional stores of value such as gold and real estate. These assets have historically served as proxies for value storage in the absence of better alternatives. However, Bitcoin's unique properties, scarcity, immutability, and decentralization, make it superior. Samson advises focusing on long-term goals, accumulating Bitcoin consistently, and resisting the temptation to chase short-term gains. He predicts that by 2025, Bitcoin could reach $1 million per coin, driven by increasing adoption and its role as a global financial standard.
Please take a little time to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos like this. You can also check out our other videos on cryptocurrencies and the overall digital asset space and drop your comments and observations in the comments section below. Everything you do helps with the YouTube algorithm and immensely contributes to the channel's growth. Thanks and enjoy the video.
We're on track to become a unit of account, and that is probably when we get to 500K per coin or something like that. And that's the point at which we start to demonetize gold, demonetize real estate, things that have been used to store value in proxy because there's nothing better. And when Bitcoin reaches those levels, people will start to say, okay, I'm not going to sell you a house for pounds anymore. I don't want the pounds. It's driving out the bad money at that point. And they'll say, pay me in Bitcoin. And all of the technologies that companies like Blockstream, Jan3, and others that are building, this is enabling Bitcoin to be paying, for a cup of coffee using second layer technology. So absolutely, Bitcoin is going to replace everything. It's going to be a store of value, medium of exchange, and a unit of account. I mean, if you're holding Bitcoin for the long term, then you should hold as much as you're comfortable with in Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is the only asset that can't be seized, stolen, or debased. Everything else is inferior to Bitcoin. I think there are going to be big moves this year. I think 2025, we could see 1 million per coin. And I still think that you should just buy it regardless of the price. There is no need to wait for a pullback. You can DCA, and I think Clem agrees, DCA is good. But if you can lump sum buy, lump sum buy. If it's good enough for Sailor as a strategy, then it's good enough for your average Joe. There's elements there I agree with. We do need to be cautious that Bitcoin is at risk when it enters the mainstream. Like entities like BlackRock that have outsized power in the world and financial power, they can potentially push for changes to Bitcoin, and we need to be ready for those attacks. And I think this is why people need to study Bitcoin, run a node, study the block size wars, and realize that the power does not lie with big players and these big predators, but rather with the individual, the guy running a node at home. And this is what makes Bitcoin peer-to-peer cash, that you run your own node and you're sovereign. You have your own Bitcoin yourself, not stored with Coinbase and not wrapped up in an ETF somewhere. But I think there is a place for it in the mainstream, because maybe you don't want to get hacked by North Korea, so you buy the ETF, and then it's safe. But there is a cost to that. First of all, you have to pay, some basis points to BlackRock or whichever ETF fund. But in the event that there is a 6102 executive order seizing Bitcoin, your stuff is gone at that point. So study Bitcoin, learn how to custody yourself and secure it yourself. It's not really hard. You can buy a Blockstream Jade Plus or any hardware wallet, a cold card, and keep your Bitcoin yourself.
As Bitcoin adoption grows, its volatility will continue to stabilize. Raoul Pal predicts that future price corrections will likely be closer to 40 to 50% compared to the 80% corrections of previous cycles. He warns against attempting to time the market, emphasizing the psychological and logistical challenges of selling at the top and buying back in during dips.
I think over time, volatility falls as you get market adoption. The more adoption, the more users, the more market activity, the more liquid it is, the less you tend to see the drops, the less the existential crisis of, are they going to ban it? Have I screwed up? Is this a stupid thing? All of that stuff goes away. So my guess is we probably see a closer to 50% drop than an 80% drop. And we could only see a 40% drop. And that will get a lot of people offside because people want to trade the cycle. And I kind of warn people about this endlessly. And we'll talk about this in a few months' time or several months' time. Be careful of I'll nail the top. I'll go into stable coins. I'll fucking nail it. The market will go down 85% and I can buy at the low like Chris Boniski and I'm going to be a god. You will not do that. You will A, not put the same amount of money back in because it's terrifying. B, you will not get the top. And C, what happens if the market falls 40% and then goes higher? And you'll be waiting for that drop and you'll be chasing all the way up. You're not Chris Boniski, and even Chris says exactly the same thing. We were swapping notes today on X about that. It's like, just be careful. Please be careful of expecting massive. Now, anything smaller, your memes, smaller tokens, even earlier stage layer ones, maybe Sui, for example, they'll go down more because they're yet unproven. They don't have the network adoption, etc. So just be careful with all of that. But that's where probably the big gains are. The last bear market, I kept it all and just added, and my all-time highs in P&L were way before almost anybody else because I didn't get rid of my position. If you think you can time it and you're a market god, or you think Julian and I can help you do it, you're probably sadly mistaken. It's your it's your fucking pension plan. It's supposed to have a long-term time horizon. What your job is for 2026 is find as much cash as you can stuff into markets as possible, because the next cycle, that's going to be a goddamn bubble of epic proportions as ASI comes in. So I just want to repeat that. I think the next cycle is an epic bubble. If it's early to tell, if the liquidity, blah, blah, blah. But if it plays out like I think it's going to be one for the record books. And that'll be the time to make sure you got all your lifestyle chips. You've got your foothold in nature, and you can sit and watch the world play out.
Samson dismisses concerns about quantum computing as a near-term threat to Bitcoin. While advancements in quantum technology could pose challenges in the distant future, Bitcoin's development community is well prepared to implement security upgrades as needed. In the meantime, Bitcoin remains far more secure than traditional financial systems, which rely on outdated security measures.
A lot of things like stablecoins, they are centralized. There is an issuer of the stablecoin, and those will only last so long as the fiat currencies function. So right. Bitcoin is the only thing that can really survive, and it has this critical mass of both adoption and people that run nodes and develop the software. And that's not the case for everything else. If you could coalesce and have that critical mass, then there wouldn't be Solana. Those Solana guys would be working on Ethereum, but that's not the case for altcoins. Everybody is motivated to create their own new altcoin, as you're saying, to serve some niche. And more people that are new, that don't understand it, might buy that narrative. But the people that have gone through, a couple of years in the space, they kind of understand eventually that, okay, altcoins exist to mine Bitcoin from people, right? And if you look at the behavior of a lot of the crypto founders, what do when they do their ICO? They buy Bitcoin. Who are some of the biggest holders of Bitcoin? It's Tezos, EOS, the guys that did ICOs to launch their token. How's their token doing today? You can go check. How's Bitcoin doing today? And how much Bitcoin do they have? They have a good chunk. Well, I agree in some point with Clem that quantum is not a threat. I don't believe that it is at a stage where it can be a threat right now. I think maybe in 10 years, maybe if we're lucky. But there are upgrades to Bitcoin, and Clem is right to that point. There are upgrades, and there are consensus decisions that everyone agrees to run a node, and the rules can change to a point. But it's not like there will be consensus to make Bitcoin inflationary or to increase the supply infinitely. That just won't happen because nobody in their right mind would agree to these things, and you need absolute supermajority to implement some sort of change like that, and likely would need to be a soft fork as well, so backwards compatible. So there are security upgrades that can be done. There are upgrades that can protect different elements of Bitcoin that could potentially be susceptible to quantum computing. But in large part, I think it's far away, and the existing financial system is far at greater risk. Like your bank PIN is 4 digits for the most part. You know, a private key to Bitcoin is far, far more complex and larger.
Ian, if you follow our work in the macro investing tool, you'll see we would probably assign a less than 10% chance, maybe a less than 5% chance. So as you go up the tiers, particularly into the plus tier, you get this level of guidance that's going to give you the confidence that you really need, where you can detune the stupid bullshit. You know, people are like, well, we're going to have a blow off top and then we're going to collapse like 1929 next year, which is a bunch of people who engagement farm on Twitter. It literally can't happen for more reasons than I can explain right now, because I'm so far behind with these questions. Dan, Raoul stated he's been transitioning from Sol to SWI. How does that line up with the don't fuck this up of your future? Since SWI was thought of having more risk, what are your thoughts on staking Sol? Hopefully I've addressed that. It is more risky. I'm a more experienced investor. I am overweight it significantly. I do not expect you to be, but I do think it's the best performing major of this thing. It's now in the top 10, 11 tokens. It will end up in the top 5, I think, at the end of this cycle. So feel free to, have a reasonable risk allocation to it. Again, the caveat is, I'm on the board, so I don't want any of you throwing cheap shots on X like, oh my God, he's so biased. It's not. I'm a fucking mercenary for price and my capital, and it's going up like a rocket ship over time. What are your thoughts on staking Sol? I go backwards and forwards with this all the time. I just don't want to lose my tokens, and I just worry that whatever validator, whatever way of doing it, I fuck it up. Feel free to do it, but it's just not for me. And I know it's free money if I get it right. And then somebody's going to snapshot that and goes, Raoul says it's free money. Sorry, you can tell I'm still so scarred from that last time. I mention this every time. Claire Sexton, Raoul, does don't fuck it up thesis mean it's not advisable to spread investments across ETH, Sol, XRP, and 50% Bitcoin? That is perfect allocation. Completely works for the thesis.
Samson concludes with practical advice for navigating the Bitcoin ecosystem. He emphasizes the importance of self-education, self-custody, and maintaining a long-term perspective. By understanding Bitcoin's fundamental principles and participating actively in the network, individuals can safeguard their financial sovereignty and benefit from Bitcoin's transformative potential.